See? Full crowd for you, Bill. This is close to 200 people here. Will we kick off then?
Yeah.
Hello everyone. Everybody hear me okay? Can I have everyone's attention please? Thanks very much. Welcome everyone to tonight's Scottish Blockchain Meetup. It's fantastic to see such an amazing crowd here tonight, so thanks to each and every one of you for coming along. By far the biggest turnout we've ever had, so thanks for your continued support. A lot of new faces and a lot of the old regulars as well, so thanks to everyone, and I hope you enjoy the night tonight. So as you can see, just before we kick off with the main event, we've got just a mention for our sponsors and partners tonight. So thanks very much to Zencash, first of all. Zencash are sponsoring tonight the beers and pizzas, of which there were many. As you can see, they didn't last long, that's for sure. So thanks very much, Zencash, and Rowan's here tonight, so if anyone wants to grab him after, then hopefully you can get a word with him. And thanks again to Napier for hosting us tonight. It's great to be here, so thanks to Bill, Basil and the team once again. And Product Forge for continued support on the video and live streaming. So we're being live streamed tonight as well, so best behaviour everyone, once again. And MBN Solutions, again, many of you might not be aware that MBN facilitate the meetups, and so that's if anyone is looking for a position, a new job, or is looking to hire, then please give me a shout afterwards or check out mbnsolutions.com. Thanks, Bill. Just before we start again, so for next month's meetup, it's in Glasgow in February. I'd like to see all of you there as well if you can. It's with IBM, blockchain in 2018, moving from hype to reality, so hopefully all of you can make it along. So on to tonight's event. So it's a pleasure to have Professor Bill Buchanan again, along with Liam Bell, and they're going to be talking about building a new, healthy and more trustworthy. So please give a warm welcome to Professor Bill Buchanan.
Right, well, thanks very much for the invite again. I didn't think I'd be back, or we would be back so soon, so it's good to see that we've increased the numbers, so that's a good sign. And I think it just shows you how healthy our economy is and how eager we are to kind of change the world, but don't tell anybody about that. So it's been a kind of strange time for us. It's been an amazing, fantastic time, and just the buzz and the vibrancy and the opportunities that are there to basically change things are quite amazing. So the last time I was told not to mention my new book, like my blockchain and cryptocurrency book, I have not to mention it. So I don't know what's happened there, but that's not my new book, by the way. It's a good read. It's a good read. You've got to get that one. And if you get it, you get a free T-shirt, which is pretty good, from Amazon. So I highly recommend that you buy that book. It's really good. And I have no idea who that guy is. I have to change my name. And my son's, if you were here the last time, my son is the same name as me. But we won't go there again, because I've been recommended by the Scottish Government to, I don't know, we won't go there. So it's an amazing time. And what an amazing few months that we've had. So I did it. I gritted my teeth. Me and Basil were there in the Glasgow concert hall, at the end of Sauchiehall Hall Street, or Glasgow very well. And I managed to play Rammstein. And there, I go, oh no, I'm going to get crucified for this. I'm going to open up the Daily Mail and they're going to say, Professor shocks audience. People run out of the seats playing Rammstein. And we kind of got away with it, I think, from there. So
we even got backstage.
That's right. Got back, but don't say anything about that. That's and so it was quite amazing to actually do that in such an amazing surrounding. And what we did was that we played Rammstein in there, and I think from my point of view, I missed the transistor. I was that height, okay? Well, I wasn't even that height. I wasn't even born, okay? I missed the transistor. I missed the microprocessor because I was at college. I missed the PC because I was a student. I missed the internet because I was an academic. I was a lecturer then. I'm not going to miss the opportunity of a lifetime to actually properly change the world. Okay, this is the first time that I and we have the opportunity to really influence and change things for the better. So I don't know how you feel about that, but I'm really energized about the possibility of us building a new world. Okay, so I bet you didn't think you'd see that today. So that was my background music to me, lifting you up. It's all downhill, the presentation from here, so that's fine. You could probably leave now, you've missed the best bit. I get inspired by music like that. There's a phrase, I'd rather be a pirate than be in the Navy. That's kind of how I feel in them. So it's a changing world. It really is a changing world. And I've seen this quote, and I've probably misrepresented it, okay? But I've put my little spin on it. Cryptography has been focused on proving system security, okay? That's where we are, encrypt everything. But it now has the chance to improve our society. So the opportunity that we have now is to change our society for the better, to make people better, and so on. It's our opportunity to actually do that. So I'll come back to that at the very end, and hopefully we'll see the path that we'll actually take. Okay, so I always start with this slide here. If it wasn't for us, humans, everything would be great. Okay, we kind of muck up crypto, we kind of put bugs in it, and we do bad things, and we code wrong, and so on. So my disclaimer is encryption works really well until it doesn't. Encryption works great as long as nobody makes a mistake. Encryption works great unless something goes wrong. And encryption works great as long as all the other things work right there. Okay, so I can say for a fact, as a crypto professor, it's amazing, it's fantastic, it's 100%. But unfortunately, you've got humans in there, and you've got people who want to make money. Okay, and there's lots of money in them there hills, in crypto hills. So that's it. So it's up to you who you are, but hopefully most of us are Bob or Alice, and we'll want to make sure that they can communicate, that Eve doesn't get in between and listen to the communications, and Eve doesn't pretend to be Bob. The internet we've created is rubbish. It's garbage. It's still back in the old days of the DARPA. We only need 50 computers in the whole world. Security was make sure your coffee cup doesn't tip onto your keyboard. I'm sure some of the RFCs have got that at the bottom. Security was an afterthought, and all the new protocols are basically just the same, but they have the sticking plaster on them called SSL. So we're building a new world, and hopefully we have the opportunity. So I've got to show that slide, okay? I'm under contract, I'm sponsored by the GDPR Corporation, and I've got to show that slide in every single presentation that I make, because it's kind of scary. Basically, people have got rights to their own data. Oh, it's a bit scary. We've got to do pseudo-anonymity. If somebody can tell me what that really means, then you're a better professor than me. And then we've got to encrypt, okay? The advice is encrypt everything. Everything that moves, that stays still, that does something, encrypt it. And then your CEO can go on Sky News and say, we encrypted everything. None of this partial encryption that Dido did. Dido did, sounds good. Dido went on Sky TV, we partially encrypt credit card details. What does that mean? You either do it or you don't, not half of it or something like that. And who in the design team said, we'll encrypt half of it and we'll leave the other half, okay, just to give them a bit of a clue. So that's where we are, and in May next year it's going to be a Wild West and things will change. Okay, so that's the background to it. So I don't know about you, but it's the most interesting time that I've lived through, apart from Heartbleed, which was kind of scary, like the whole internet was open. People send one packet and they could read your passwords and stuff like that. And I just think this is an amazing time that we're living through. Who knows what Bitcoin's going to be in 5 minutes' time? You go, oh, it's up 50%. Oh no, it's down. It's down 75%. I'm a millionaire. No, I'm not. Sell the car, sell the car. No, a BMW. We'll get a BMW. In fact, get a 4x4. No, it's a Kia. Okay. So I think this is a really wonderful time, and I find it so interesting, and I can make a difference, which is nice, and we can all make a difference to it. So there's me, 52. Yeah, I'm number 52 in the top blockchain people. Don't know how it happened, but I'm number 52. I was in the top 50, but somebody pushed me out. So hopefully the person isn't here, because I come after you. Okay, we've got some really smart people there. So there's in the top 50. Adam Black there. Oh, fantastic. Oh, the Litecoin founder in there. Oh, we're getting serious now. These are top people there. Founder, CEO of, and an author there. We go through Charlie Lee, who created Litecoin, and we're not worthy. We're not worthy at number one. We cannot exist in the same space as this guy. He is. But let's scroll up a wee bit. Let's have a look here. Okay, let's zoom in a little bit here. Okay, that's fine. And I don't know if you can read. Can you read? I won't tell you what that says. And do you? Is that a question? John McAfee is such a guy. He's such a great guy. I don't know how many guns he has in his car, but he has a lot. He's a wacky guy. Okay, so I don't know where that came from. I'm a very stable guy. I don't know where I got that quote from, but I'm a really stable professor. I'm a stable guy. And I recommend Litecoin. Okay, go and buy it right now. It's great. I love it. But John, if you follow John, oh, he's been going crazy. Look at that. Okay, why don't you buy Safe Exchange coin and stuff like that? So if you look at it, when he tweeted, almost minutes after it, whoosh, it went up. Okay, and he did it again. Okay. Electroneum, woof, there you go. And then he did it with this one, coin of the day, Digibyte. Buy it now, just before Christmas, just before you're going to get rich so you can buy the kids some nice toys or not. Go and buy that and there. So it's pretty crazy that he would do that. And oh, sorry about that. I don't know how that one got in there. I have no Bitcoins. I have no cryptocurrency. I would have zero credibility as a professor to write articles and to lecture to students if I had a Bitcoin. If I had one Bitcoin, so I promise, and that's why I'm here and not in Barbados just now. Or not down the grass market, selling the big issue, but that's another story. So I have nothing. You can trust me, I'm a professor. I have nothing to gain at all. That isn't a right tweet. I'm sorry about that. That isn't a real tweet. But I'm a very stable genius, okay? That was the feedback I got from one of my student modules, so it's fine. So you've really got to worry somebody telling you to buy something from the internet, especially cryptocurrency, if they bought it themselves. I'm not implying anything here about anybody who bought anything, but it's a kind of crazy world here. You can see when I tweeted the value of... bail out. Bill recommends it. Get yourself out. In fact, I caused it, okay? I'm sorry if you've lost a lot of money. I caused it. Not, okay? Some of you are believing me here, so I'm a bit worried. Okay, so they all bailed out when I did this. Go and buy. It's my great tip for a great investment, because it's 40 times faster than Bitcoin and so on. Oh, sorry. So that was a... I just contacted John. That's a personal message to the audience there. Just in case you're in any doubt about the things that he thinks. And isn't it great that we have characters like that in our industry, and they're not blue pinstriped executives from wherever. You have some crazy people who do that on Twitter. I don't do that. I have never done. I'm not going to show you a picture. That would be great in the front page of the Daily Mail, I can assure you, but it's not going to happen. You think it's going to happen, don't you? Well, it's not. I wouldn't do that. I've got some standards. So that's that. So talking about the Daily Mail, I was lucky enough to get in the Daily Mail. Well, that's something that I've always wanted to do. So it was around crypto, jacking off your browser with the Monero currency. There's no cracker for it, so they can create a mining pool, and companies, the Pirate Bay, and you got to say this could be a valid. You're getting a free service. They want to mine your CPU for 20% of the time. Fortunately, Pirate Bay did it for 90%, so your CPU went through the roof. There was a bug in it. So it is a valid model, possibly, that they took a wee bit of your CPU. They give you free software, I suppose. But when you go to Starbucks in Brazil, this is what happened. Somebody decided to do that. So it is a perfectly valid business model, but people think it's really wacky. So don't you just love the comments? Don't you just love the comments in the Daily Mail so much? Okay, so this is what it does. Your little computer becomes part of a big mining network, and they try and find the hash, and they try and find the hash, and you get, well, Pirate Bay gets rewarded, but use them. So I had a little look at the comments. So the first one that came through, I might start my own and call it Britcoin. This is the Sunday Mail, you've got to remember here, only for use in the UK. Okay, and then it came, what, like the pound? Question mark, exclamation mark. Don't think those two go together, but that's fine. Making a statement and asking a question at the same time. And my grammar is duh. Laugh out loud. Okay. The guy didn't get it. You're not very bright, are you, Hampshire Hog 73? It's tongue in cheek. There should be hyphens in that, but that's another thing. Okay. So I thought saying lol was, I'm joking here, by the way. So when the comments came through, I've got a 92-year-old wife running slower. And look at the name of the person who tweeted that. It could be Trump, but it probably isn't. Okay, Clinton for prison. Okay. So that one came through, and why not disable JavaScript? Yeah, nothing will work. I can assure you. If you disable JavaScript, nothing will. The whole world is built on JavaScript now. So I wanted to reply back to that one, but I knew I'd get fried for that one. And then they said, oh, and there had to be an elite thing in here, okay? I'm an elite, I suppose. Just an advert for the elites, get rich quick scheme. They want a world, they want to, here we go with the elites and things like that. And then, I love this one. This one, I could have written this one, but I didn't. Worth noting that the Daily Mail site carries many pages, but they don't have a digital certificate on the page. What a techie thing to do. That is, nobody would understand what that one was about, but I got it, okay? No digital certificate on there. I thought this one was good. NASA has monitored me many times. Uranus is attractive to many scientists. Why are you so rude? I thought it was good because it got 14. That one got 14. That was. So that was quite good. And then they're saying, actually, it was written in the conversation, and they thought maybe the journalist had been doing work, but it wasn't. So a lot of news is picked up and blasted all over the world from there. Okay, so who's 9 years old? Roughly in a week. So whose birthday is it? Who's got a child that's only 9 years old? Him. Okay, him. Satoshi Nakamoto. But it's not him, or is it him? And this guy, Hal Finney, and Satoshi did that. Okay, that basically says on the 3rd of January 2009 they created the first block, and it was worth 50 bitcoins. I don't know if you know how much that is, but that's a lot of money now, and nobody knows where it is. Well, nobody knows where the key is to open that up there. So that was 9 years ago. It only took a little bit of data, and the hash wasn't actually that difficult to crack. So that's what came along, but basically it was a whole long history of lots of people. It was the cyberpunks who started it because they wanted to put themselves on the side of the individual. So that was the paper, and then the cyberpunks themselves were rebels without a cause. And they didn't know why they were doing it, they just knew that this was the way to go forward and to break the system because it wasn't working quite right. So those were the cyberpunks, and these are professor punks, I suppose. Alde Shamir, my hero, Ron Rivest, and who's the other one? RSA, Elderman, Shamir, I don't know. RSA, they're not like Ant and Dec, the RSA. You've got to stand in RSA to spell that. That'd be a real geeky photo, that one. So he says he's not, keep away from me, I'm not the guy who did it, but he did stay along the road from Hal Finney. I don't know if you kind of see this, but he's just down the road from Hal Finney. Bit strange that, but I'm not implying who he is at all. And it's not me, that's for sure. I would have cast him long ago. And, but maybe, maybe it's some other crazy, not crazy, but a stable genius. I am Spartacus. He is Donald Trump. So he tweeted that in April. You can make your own. So Ripple has been such an amazing time, and the media thinks there's one thing, like Bitcoin is winning, and then Ripple takes over. It's like a race, and it's wrong because they're all different and they all do different things. And Ripple is a completely different technology than anything else. So now I've been watching. Some people going, I'm millionaires, and you meet them next week and say, I've got no money. I've lost all my money. And it's a kind of strange time. Okay, I don't want to bore you, but basically this is how it works. I contact a gateway who I trust. The gateway sends the money to Peggy, who's Alice's agent. and the transaction takes 5 seconds to get a consensus. How long does it take your bank to clear a check? 3 days, maybe more. 5 seconds consensus. So it's up against the Swift network, which is a pretty big network. Okay, so we'll quickly read that, and that's what it is. Basically, you're trusting your gateway. If your gateway gets hacked, you're in trouble. If nobody pays you from the gateway, you've lost all your money. So that's how it happens, and some of the big banks are moving towards it there. But people have been doing an assessment of it, and there are problems in its actual setup. So the problem is there. Okay, so you don't have to read that quickly, but it's been assessed. There can be a consensus split. If you get malicious nodes in the Ripple network, they can move the consensus to say that's wrong and that's right, and they create what's called a hard fork immediately, and it can crash the whole network. Somebody could steal the validator keys, the secret keys. Do you trust the Git developers? One person owns this, one company owns this. They have the keys to the castle, and if something goes wrong, an insider could leak the keys and it could be compromised. There could be a software backdoor. Okay, they own the software. Bankers used to rule the world. Now it's software developers that actually have the keys to the castle. And then there's a cohesion that the miners, not miners, there's a consensus now. There's no proof of work in this anymore. They just all get together for 5 seconds and they agree the transaction is work. Bob has enough money to pay Alice, and so on. So it's a new type of system, but it's not perfect from there. So we saw that. It started to look into second place, and we all know that Ethereum is the proper one, but don't tell anybody. Ethereum, we're all back in Ethereum to a certain extent, but Ripple took second place, and we were all getting a bit scared that maybe we had backed the wrong horse. And it went up to about $3 or so. Does anybody have it? No, I won't. Oh, yeah, got one. Yeah. You were a millionaire? Not now. That's how I keep my developers and the researchers, because they can lose money. Who's that? That's the richest man in the world. Last week. He was rich. He's not as rich, but he's pretty rich in there. So that's Chris Larsen. He holds 5.2 billion crypto coins. They don't have to be used in the network, but many people buy them to make money. And he's only worth 15.8 billion. Don't you feel sorry for him? Don't you feel sorry? But it's controlled by one company. And I don't know if you see this, but everybody's saying Visa, Visa, Visa. You're never going to cope with Visa. Ethereum is way down here, and Bitcoin is even worse. We're having problems scaling it, but look at Ripple. Ripple is nearly competing. It's past PayPal, and it's past Bitcoin Cash, and it's starting to look like a Visa contender. So you can see that it's a different type of beast. I mean, it'll never go to the same proportions as Visa. So one time, people used to drive down the high street with stockings on their heads. That's a bit strange, but let's hope that doesn't happen anymore. There was no robberies happened in the UK by big angry men driving down the high street and robbing a bank. None. Okay, it doesn't happen anymore. And the thing is that you get caught. Okay, it's a kind of risk of the business. So what's the best crime that I'm not recommending this, by the way. What's the best crime that you're going to get away with? And you go to the cops and you go, I lost 500,000 bitcoins, and they'll go, duh. You wouldn't know where to start, okay? They would not know where to go. You will get away with it. The chances of being caught. So these are all the hacks that have happened on wallets that people have been search for the wallets. I always disappoint people. Where's my coins? They're nowhere. And somebody grabbed them all one by one and stuffed them. No. You lost your private key. Oh, You lost your private key because you let it expose and someone got it and they transferred the money. You have no coins. You have no coins really. All you have is a wallet which contains your key pair. You lose that private key, you've lost your money. If somebody gets it, then you've lost your money too. So people have been searching the internet for those files. Those files identify your wallet. If somebody can find those files on your mobile device or on your server or so on, you're stuffed. Okay? So the scanning has went on. I don't know if you've looked at the logs on websites. If you're running Ethereum or so on, people will be in there scanning through the whole of the system and looking at your remote desktop and stuff like that, looking for your wallets. And if they find them, you're in big trouble. So this was an example here that somebody was connected to the JSON RCP and managed to get there. And they traced the transaction of somebody grabbing the Ethereum and managing to get away with it. But luckily it was a honeypot, okay, so they didn't really get away with anything there. So it's a bit worrying that it's almost like a crime that you're going to get away with. And then there's CryptoKitties. Okay, we know it's a fad, but it was the first proper application that could be built with Ethereum and actually had a microeconomy that people want. Oh, it just melts your heart, doesn't it? Would you pay $500,000 for one of them? Just pick one you want, made 3 million, and so on. It's still running, but the price isn't quite. If you bought that $500,000 kitty, you're not going to get your money back, I don't think. So it's a microeconomy. I don't know why people bought it, but you can mutate them and so on. So that's the most expensive one there, isn't that? I think he's got a problem. He has the mange, I think, if you can get him. I have no idea what that is. I have never seen a cat like that. I would take that to the vet. Okay, they're adorable, absolutely fantastic. I love them. I didn't buy one. I'm not selling CryptoKitties, by the way. I'm not involved. But what happened was that it clogged the whole network, and we were getting a bit worried. But since then, actually, the transactions have increased, and it's coped with it. Okay, so it got over CryptoKitties. Isn't that amazing? That's first hurdle, CryptoKitties, and it got, oh, look at that. I mean, that isn't that? Would you prefer a virtual pet or a real one? Yeah? So there you go. You don't have all that cleaning up of the poop scoop and all that kind of thing. You can have a real CryptoKitty. So it was the first time, and now what we're seeing is governments are kind of running scared. And the Bank of England came out and said that they were considering having a cryptocurrency. So they want to create a pound because they're worried that we're doing lots of stuff that they don't see, and we don't pay taxes and so on. So it'd be better for them to have a cryptocurrency that they could keep a track of and so on. So the Bank of Israel have went ahead and actually did it. But do people trust it? So it got picked up in Australia. I love Australians. They're just the best people in the world. And what I heard from the journalist is that if you think you've got a problem with banks, go to Australia. They have a massive problem with banks. They don't trust them at all. Okay, so there you go. There we go. The banks are at it. They're taking all the money and that. You know, you need to pay for your ATM in Australia. It's a big problem. So I was looking at some of the comments, and some of the comments are excellent. All I can say is yes, yes, yes. Give these banks the well-deserved something they need. 5, 6 exclamation marks. That's an Australian telling the world, go for it. That's an Australian says, if they use 6 exclamation marks, then they're pretty serious about this. And then it says, what you've described is a good thing. Imagine a world without any loans that people would actually spend what they've made and so on. That's it. Stop acting your age. I thought that was a good bit of advice at the end. I've no idea what context that is in with Bitcoin, but it's certainly in there. So what about doing things right? Okay, so stick blockchain in your name and say it's part of your business, and just watch those shares rocket. So the Long T Ice Corporation rocketed their shares by saying they were getting to blockchain, they were changing the name to blockchain and so on. And cigars aren't selling as well as they used to. So the cigar company decided to use all their processing power to mine bitcoins, and the share price rocketed to 2,233%. I don't know if you do math. That's a lot. Okay, you've just become a millionaire just by saying that you're going to mine bitcoins in your company. So that company used to be really fantastic. We loved them, but they kind of lost their way, and they kind of went bust, and they came back again to a certain extent. But they are back, okay? They are back with a vengeance. They are back with a vengeance because their share price has rocketed. And why did it rocket? Well, I think they've done something really smart. They've said, we'll put it on a blockchain. See, all you people who have been using graphics in your PowerPoint slides, me too, and putting them on your website or your LinkedIn posts and stuff like that, pictures of Edinburgh and so on, somebody's going to come after you. Okay, so Kodak says, well, what we'll do is that if you're a photographer, you give us your images, we'll keep a little thumbprint, and we'll police the web, and if we find it, we'll send a solicitor's letter, and we'll go after them. And they're right. If you can get a government to approve this, and Kodak have got the clout to some extent to actually prove this, if you can do this, you will make a lot of money. Pay £100. If you don't pay it in a week, $200. And if you don't pay in a month, then it's $1,000. In fact, I'm going to take you to court and so on. And that's all from a smart contract that's been defined. It can all automate. The crawlers will go and find images. That business model will work because you're doing something illegal. You're using a photograph that you thought was in Google, and you found it. You're going to have that, and you forget to check that that's the copyright of somebody, and it's licensed, and it costs £600 to use it. So the business model is excellent, and I think it will work. So they're looking at registration, and they'll probably go after, if they can get a few percent of the people to pay, typically businesses, then they're probably going to do okay. And you say, but it's not going to be accepted, crypto signing and blockchain. Florida says that they will recognize blockchain signatures, and Tennessee say that's the next thing. The US knows this is the future, that a wet signature is history, and a blockchain signature is the correct one to do it. And just to take you back, that's what web pages used to look like. That's from 1999. And that says that California adopts digital signature law. Okay, so they have been saying that they will accept this for a while, but I think only now there is actually a change in attitudes. So what are the roadblocks? And what we'll do is we'll give you a demonstration of some of the things that we think are roadblocks that takes us there. The biggest problem is that if you put my data on a blockchain and make it public, I'm suing you. You're finding out what I'm buying online, you're finding out what I like to use and so on. That's wrong. So the biggest problem just now is that how can you create a blockchain that doesn't give away passwords, identity, and all the different things? So I thought I'd bring my jewellery box along just to show you. But the two ways for the future is towards what's called zero knowledge proof, and Liam will outline a bit more about that and give a practical demo, hopefully. We won't do maths. I'm a professor and I want to teach you something, but I'll try to not do that. And homomorphic encryption. So Craig Gentry was the guy. You've got to follow this guy. He's just amazing. Works for IBM now. And his scenario was that, let's say that you have workers who are working on jewels, but you don't want them to steal them, so they have special gloves. I hope you're thinking this through. You've had a few beers, so probably your mind's in the right place. But you have special gloves that can actually work on the jewels, but you don't actually need to open the box, okay? And that's homomorphic encryption, allows you to operate on secret things and still do your work, okay? We've not quite sorted it out yet, but homomorphic encryption is the way that your data processor can do the business, and if they're hacked, then your data won't be released. With zero knowledge, so it's a troll is at the gate, and Peggy is allowed to go into the cave. So Peggy is like Alibaba's cage. She says Alakazam. If she knows the secret word, she opens up the door and she can get through. So Trent, or the ogre, wants to know if Peggy knows the secret password, but he doesn't want her to give it away. So what happens is that she goes into the maze and she selects a route A or B. She walks through A or B. And then the ogre comes into the cave and he shouts, okay, Peggy, I want you to come through B. And she walks through. Does she know the secret password? Yes or no? Who wants to guess there? The ogre says B, and Peggy walks out of B. Does she know the password or not? Someday. Sometime. You got a 50-50 chance, for goodness sake. I'll give you a Ripple coin. I'll give you 2 Ripple coins. In fact, I'll give you 5 Ripple coins if you want. 10 Ripple coins.
Both knows and doesn't know it.
Oh, you're making life difficult for me here. I can't think that through.
There's no way to say without repeating the experiment many times.
That's right, okay? 50-50 chance. So you get to do it again, and you say A, and she comes out of A, and you still do not know. So every time she's half in the odds, doesn't take too long to find out that she's lying or she knows that. So zero knowledge proof is all about this type of thing. To prove that with 2 millionaires who don't trust anyone, or 2 billionaires if they're Ripple, then they don't trust anybody. How can they tell who's got the most money without actually bringing a third person? Because you don't trust anybody online. So homomorphic encryption is all about encrypting. So what we have is a public key and a private key. We encrypt with a private key. We give it to our data processor. The data processor can add the values together, get a result, give us it back, and we can decrypt it with our, sorry, I got that wrong. I hope you play that one back. we encrypt with the public key, sorry, and then we process, and then we send it back, and we can decrypt, and we've done an add operation. We can do multiply and so on. And zero knowledge proofs and ZK snarks is the one I have tried to create a simple explanation, and I still haven't got there, but I'm going to get there. But with that, what we can do on the block is that we can have encrypted values, and we can do some sort of processing. And a simple one is that, does Bob have enough money in his account to pay Alice? Yes or no? That's what we do. So with Zcash, we do that. It's all anonymized. All the transactions, all the smart contracts are processed. So I showed this slide before, and you've probably not went away and read up on it, but I'll present it again. It kind of it melts your brain this to a certain extent. So homomorphic encryption is that we aim to prove that Alice knows 2 values, that can equal an answer. That's homomorphic encryption. And blind evaluation means that Alice doesn't want to know the values that Bob is using, and Alice doesn't want Bob to know the method that she's using. so that it's a strange thing that Alice knows the process and works on Bob's secret values, and the other way around, Bob doesn't actually know the method that Alice is using. That's the way that we're going towards these ZK snarks, and it will make things secret. So there's the math, okay? Go on, come and do an MSc here if you want to understand the math, but that's a bit like it there. And then I'll flash the maths up. It doesn't give you a cold sweat coming back into university and seeing numbers and maths and stuff like that. So if you're interested, it all kind of works out. So the reason we're here is that we've been working on health and social care, and we'll show 2 examples of the work that we've been doing here. I love London, and I think it's an amazing innovation place. Much of the innovation that goes on in the UK happens in London. It is a place with smart people, but Edinburgh is an even better place to live. But don't tell anybody. Edinburgh is the best place to live, second best in the world. It's disappointing. But London is starting to look to share information, to help its citizens, to move citizens away from demanding health all the time, to be a commissioner, to take control, for families to actually have a budget and know how to spend it, and to be able to find the resources that we want. We've got people like people, you're going to show you a presentation later, that are looking at this type of microeconomy. And with blockchain, there's a whole lot of areas that we can be looking at health. Some of them are highly disruptive. The pioneers are looking at medicine portals, pharmacy, and so on. So the work that we've been doing, and we want to be moving into much more, we'll be working with the DHI in this area, and also with the data labs, with Spiritus. We're looking much more at the whole patient pathway. And that's the problem. We create a health system and we don't really integrate it. We want it to be a pathway that people go on and they have multiple conditions, but we really know the pathway, but we've got to make sure that the data is actually kept secure. So things like health insurance, especially in the US, we're looking at how we can trace things, how we can audit, and we can make automated payments from these systems. So the work that we're doing with Spiritus is looking at tracking healthcare assets right from the manufacturing to the decommissioning, and to look at the whole analytics, because you can almost see how the hospital works by the tracking. How many infusion pumps have you got? What are the most reliable ones? Which ones fail? Which ones are the most popular? Where are they? How much do they cost? They don't have a lot of analytics to make sure the system is working. So with our system, we're now looking to be able to put the asset and track it onto a blockchain so you can actually find out. We don't put the data on the blockchain just now. There is a signature of the data, but through homomorphic encryption and zero knowledge, we'll hopefully be trying to do that. So we think the future will look a bit like this. We have a sovereign identity for the citizen. Sovereign identity means it's your identity. It's not the government's, it's not the NHS's identity. They have a pseudonym of you, it's yours. And Estonia have done it, and they've got a smaller population than us. Sorry, I had to drop Estonia in. I've tried to get through a whole presentation without mentioning Estonia, and I just did it. 1.5 million population, and they have sovereign identity, and the EU is looking to them as to be a role model in how to create a new economy and how to create a new health and social care infrastructure. So we think there should be much more attestations. If somebody has dementia, it's signed by a clinician, and that is your attestation, and you can use that with smart contracts, and the whole thing should just work. If you've got dementia, say, and Boots has a special deal on some sort of drugs, then it should happen automatically. When you turn 60, you walk in a bus on Lothian buses, and you'll get a free bus, get free bus travel without having to fill in forms and so on. So more and more we think that's the way that things are going, and Estonia is well beyond us. So since we're in John Napier's castle tower, and he's the basis of logarithms, we're quite lucky that we can now announce, I can't give you the full details, but we've managed to get funding for a blockchain identity lab. We want to be world leading in 3 to 5 years, and we now have funding to support PhD studentships and research staff and so on, all in Edinburgh. And it's good because the University of Edinburgh also has a blockchain lab, So you could really see that Edinburgh and Scotland is probably the place to be in the whole of the world, to be in this area just now. So we'll announce this soon, and we hope that you can be part of that, and we're focusing on sovereign identity. So that's my presentation. So I started with that, and I'll finish with that. I think we want to use cryptography to improve society, and it's up to you to tell people, explain to people that this isn't just hype or a bubble or something. This is real. This is doing it properly. Thank you. So we're techie geeky people here, and what we've been working on is a blockchain health block, and Liam is our researcher, and he's going to show you some of the practical things that we've been working on. There.
I'm just trying to think where to put it. Right. Oh, have I got to wear both? Oh, yes. Yeah, if you give me a hand with this.
As much of a nuisance as that is, that's the problem with old PA systems.
No, exactly.
Don't tell them.
I won't say it into the microphone.
Right, okay, that one can go in your back pocket.
Right, okay.
You don't have to do anything with these, just speak as you normally would.
Okay, good.
That one's going to the room, and this one's just going to me. That's the only reason why it's two.
All right, I'll put this in the other back pocket there.
Sure, that's fine.
Oh. Ah, there we go. What? Yeah, I'm correct. Hello, I should probably start by introducing myself. I'm Liam, I'm a research fellow in Bill's research group. I've worked on past projects with Police Scotland, with Payfont, and now I work with the fantastic Spiritus as well as the NHS. Now I will start off with one thing, which is I am quite deaf. So everybody at the back hear me, I'm not very good on the whole levels thing. Are we good? Sweet, we're good. Okay, the other thing is obviously any questions will have to be afterwards because I won't hear a word you're saying. Right. So I'm going to start off with a review of 2017 in the blockchain world. Now I will end up going over some of the stuff that Bill already has said because there wasn't amazing coordination there, but we saw some great developments in blockchain this year. Bitcoin went over 20k for a very, very short amount of time and has now fallen back down to, I think it's at 12k. Amex are now deploying blockchain in tandem with Santander in the UK for international clearing. So that's obviously a big thing. We've got one of the globally systemically important institutions in banking involved, so it's important. And Ethereum, in my sort of area, is now supporting private shielded transactions using ZK snarks. Also, as Bill mentioned, jumping on the blockchain bandwagon, the word blockchain or Bitcoin to their name. Now, I am a lot more negative than Bill is. And yeah, I'm going to show you what happened afterwards, because I was wondering what happened to these companies. Up 42,500%, up 20,445%. Well, the answer for UBI is actually that they were forced to cease trading in their shares, because as it turns out, when you mislead investors, they don't want you to continue selling your stock. But let's find out what happened to some of those companies. So there's UBI, back to where it started. First Bitcoin Capital, back to where it started. And as Bill mentioned earlier, the Long Blockchain Corporation, which was, I thought that was an Onion article. I did not take it seriously. Like, it was a joke. Okay, so now my research at the moment focuses on asset tracking in a healthcare environment. So The reason we use blockchain is obviously you get a mutable ledger, which you can then obviously compare with off-chain databases, because the performance of a lot of private blockchains isn't amazing. Again, I'm a lot more negative than Bill is. Now, we have done asset tracking in the NHS before. Two trusts come to mind, NHS Cambridgeshire and NHS Forth Valley. Now, those pilots saved for the health service between 50,000, 300,000 a year. And the reason that happens is because, well, basically, if you put something in a cupboard and then you forget it's there and you buy new ones, and then you find out later you already had it, you know, you lose money that way. The other thing is, in a lot of hospitals now, especially in Scotland, I know of one in particular where there are duty nurses whose only job it is to find beds, which, that's ridiculous. We should know where they are. And so that's why asset tracking is a big part of what we do. Now, basically, it's very important, and this is a public sector thing, is that the method of extraction of the data should be agnostic to hardware, because the issue we've had in the past in the public sector is, for example, the Scottish Parliament, we had those electronic voting machines that we then had to replace at a significant cost because the company that made the hardware went bust. So you should always be data driven, I would say, rather than locking yourself into hardware in that way. Now, I've kind of already explained this. It's about managing recalls, it's about speeding up the provision of care and providing a better health service for everybody, saving money for the public purse, all that good stuff. Now, yeah, that's basically what I just said, so we'll skip that. Now, basically, this is a sort of idea, because it's also very important it should be simple, because nurses are already overworked, that's just a fact. So one of the ways we've looked at doing it is passive RFID tags, and then like you whip out your phone, Android, Apple, they both support RFID, so you just get them in. It's inexpensive hardware compared to a lot of RFID scanners. Tap, go on the blockchain, or indeed on whatever platform you like with that audit log blockchain, so that you have that immutability. We've looked at other ways as well, so stuff like active RFID tags, where you get a big piece of hardware that sits above the door. I push a bed through the door, and it tells you that it's gone through the door, and you know what it is. Now, the problem is that obviously passive RFID doesn't give you real-time tracking, and active RFID is it's expensive, and it will tell you where it was last, which may not be where it is now. And again, I'm being very negative here. I really feel like I should be more positive about something, but basically, the other solution, of course, is to use the existing infrastructure. Now, in this room, we have lights. And so another thing we had considered is looking at something called Li-Fi, which basically you can do asset tracking with that. Basically, you triangulate the exact position based on where it is between lights. But the problem with that is the hardware is not mature on the Li-Fi side, and also, and this is another important thing, is that expensive. Things cost money, and in a health service that's run by the government, it is always about the bottom line. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is smart contracts. Now, as I'm sure most of you know, smart contracts are essentially pieces of code that run on the hardware on the blockchain, and you get a validation of this is what the output was, as you can see there. Now, they've got a lot of use cases: maintaining logs of devices, automatically adjudicating health insurance, and managing patient identities. Now, the one issue is, though, the most popular implementation of smart contracts, which Ethereum, those contracts are not necessarily private. When you're dealing with private data, especially, healthcare data, then what you need to consider is that it can't be public, because GDPR, because Data Protection Act, because the fact is that I don't want you guys to know why I went to the clinic. Let's be honest here. Now, encryption is the next step to what we're looking at, because one of the things I'm trying to talk about here is, yes, I'm being negative, but the big issues with the blockchain, stuff like scalability, stuff like performance and privacy, we can solve those things. And one of the ways to solve certainly the privacy is homomorphic encryption. As Bill mentioned earlier, homomorphic encryption allows you to perform operations on encrypted data without decrypting it. It's not all there, that's more fully homomorphic encryption, but what we do have are some cryptographic schemes that are can't even say the word. Where is it? That word. Additively I'm giving up. I'm giving up, guys. Give it up. But basically that means that you can add and multiply numbers together. I think that is fairly self-explanatory. Now, a good use case for homomorphic encryption is actually health insurance, because you can make a claim. You don't want to see, again, you guys don't want to see why I went to the clinic. I don't want to see why you guys went to the clinic. And also, very important, I don't want to see how much money you've taken out of the health insurance pot, because that might encourage me to think to myself, I should leave this pot, go to another pot, and then the whole system falls to bits. So there's absolutely no reason for that. So what I'm going to show you very quickly is actually a demonstration of homomorphic encryption on the Ethereum blockchain. Hopefully it'll work, because I kind of have had to rig together a lot of infrastructure here, because unfortunately the thing with academic networks is they do lock it down a lot. So without further ado, let's see if this will play nicely with us. Yeah, and I have built it on Android. So it's a very simple proof of concept here. Right, so as you can see here, I've got an Ethereum instance running already that I've tested on before. Oh, thank you. Sorry, I forgot that these are not screen mirrored. Okay, so I'm going to move across. Very simple application there. Oh, wow, that's massive. And I'm going to move across my Ethereum instance so we can see both at the same time. Now, as I mentioned earlier, it's important that I don't actually know the balance of what's in it, because then I might claim under it. But how much do I want to claim for? We'll say 2,500. Because what's really important here is the maths. That's why it's not exactly fully formed. It's just about showing off that we can add two numbers together, which, you know, I'm sure you're all capable of. So there we go. I've deployed a contract onto the blockchain, and that's what that is doing. Is that's an additive homomorphic contract. I encrypt it client side and then pass it off to Ethereum where it does the addition. The reason I'm not doing the encryption on Ethereum is that it has limited resources and it's slow, and I'm negative. Now in a few seconds you'll see that transaction, and I should ask for a transaction receipt in a second, which will give me back my numbers and show the original balance so that we can verify that it added the numbers together. And, oh, it did. Because we can all agree here that 2,500 plus 500 is 3,000. It's pretty simple maths. Probably didn't need that to do it. But there we are. That's homomorphic encryption ran on the Ethereum blockchain. I think if I close this, yeah. Yeah, Android is pretty rubbish. So I really need to be positive about life. Well, not life. I'm positive about life, but positive about, well, other things. So that was Paleo's crypto system. And now I'm going to talk about zero knowledge proofs, which Bill has already mentioned, so I'm going to go over it very quickly. Basically, a zero knowledge proof gives you the ability to prove something without giving up that knowledge. Now, my favorite example of it is what's called the colorblind example. If you're colorblind and I give you two balls that are red and green, and you then switch them behind your back, I can tell you that you've switched them without giving up the fact that I know which one is red and green. Now, obviously, it could be guesswork, which is why with zero knowledge proofs, you have to repeat it many times to say this is absolutely the case, because obviously it's a 50-50 chance. But otherwise, I think that's my favorite explanation. The cave one, I think, could be a bit complicated. Now, in the blockchain world, we do talk of ZK snarks, which are I always forget what this acronym actually stands for, but it's a zero knowledge succinct non-interactive argument of knowledge. You'll never need to know that. Now, they use them in Zcash, as Bill mentioned earlier, to verify the validity of a transaction without giving away the values. Because also in a financial system, if we're on a public chain, it would be bad if I knew everything you spent your money on, because then there's a lot of things I could do with that information. I mean, I could market to you, I could know what you're spending your money on, so I know what you want to buy, and stuff like that. Now, I like to talk about health insurance for some reason. It's a very, health insurance, while we don't actually have it that much in this country, is a very financial use case, and financial use cases are the easiest when it comes to maths to explain. So I'm not going to make you read that because that's complicated. Basically, and very simply, a hospital says that care has been given to condition X, the patient attests that that care took place. A smart contract generates a zero knowledge proof when all conditions have been met, so there might be extra conditions. Your health insurer might have to say, yes, we cover this. Or, you know, there are a lot of different conditions you have, and then basically the smart contract generates a zero knowledge proof that is then added to the blockchain, and that just says that the transaction was valid, and the hospital gets paid. It doesn't tell me why were you in the hospital, how much money did you claim, because the other issue with that is that If I find out that you're claiming for a condition that I can never have. So for example, in America, if you're uninsured, pregnancy can be very expensive. Now, I'm never going to get pregnant. However, health insurance pools are not only for men, only for women. You don't segregate. That'd be weird. But if I found out that my health insurance pool was mainly being used for that, I might think to myself, I'm going to leave. Or I might try and negotiate with the health insurance provider to remove that. And that's not good for anybody. So you have to keep these kind of things private. Now I'm going to talk about another method for dealing with privacy, which is trusted execution environments. Now, trusted execution environments are a piece of hardware. Almost everybody in this room will have used one. You might not realize it, but if you own an Apple phone, your fingerprint is stored in a separate piece of silicon, which essentially isolates it from your operating system. And that means that if I hack your iPhone, I don't actually get access to that. Now, so key stores as well. So they're kind of what came after TPMs, if anyone remembers TPMs in Lenovo laptops. And I don't remember if they were ever in anywhere else. Basically the idea is to increase performance and scalability of the blockchain, because what you can do is you can process private transactions there and then get the output. It's just like a black box basically. You put something in and then the code that you put inside it pushes out the values. So consensus, I know this is very wide-ranging, but bear with me. So Bitcoin, as mentioned before, implements trust by distributing it among everyone on the blockchain using a proof of work. Private implementations tend to focus more on performance, so you get stuff like proof of elapsed time, Paxos, Caesar, etc. And consortium methods tend to use trusted execution environments, so it'll execute on a variety of trusted platforms. Now, proof of work. Now, proof of work is just a puzzle of increasing difficulty that's easy for others to validate, but very difficult to produce. And the difficulty on that increases monthly in Bitcoin. The electricity costs, well, Bitcoin uses more electricity than several countries, as mentioned before. And despite being supposedly decentralized, the thing about Bitcoin is that 66% of the mining power is controlled by 4 mining pools. I mean, this is the last 14 days of projected Bitcoin energy consumption. It's gone from 37 to 41.5 terawatt hours per year, which is, I mean, that's insane. But this is what I was saying before, which is that if you actually look at who has control of Bitcoin, well, these 4 do. Now, if you trust them not to corroborate and work together, that's fine. But if it's not in the spirit of Bitcoin, because that's not the point. It wasn't meant to become this idea here. Because what they could do, they have financial incentive not to do so, but they could take all of the unmined Bitcoins for themselves if they work together. Now, that would probably do a lot of damage to the value of Bitcoin, which is their reason for not doing so. They can't take, now it is overblown, they can't take the coins that these guys own or that any of you guys own, but they can take the unmined Bitcoins, of which there are quite a lot. Then there's proof of stake. Now, proof of stake encourages hoarding, so that's the problem with that. Instead of having miners, you're paid in transaction fees, and you evaluate based on the number of coins you have. Now, this disincentivizes people from doing that consensus attack I just talked about, because what actually happens is that if you owned more than 51% of the coins, and then you broke that trust, then you're the one that's losing, because you've just lost more than anybody else has. But encouraging hoarding causes... There's an economic condition called a tragedy of the commons, where as you hoard and hoard and hoard, well, nobody can get any coins anymore. So the value increases, but then just will crash. Now, the problem is it does encourage centralization, but as you've just seen with Bitcoin, Bitcoin's already centralized. People think that it's decentralized. It's not decentralized when 4 parties could change the consensus. They can't change the consensus method, but 4 parties could take all the coins. That's not decentralized. And then there's proof of elapsed time, which I'm going to run through quickly because I have realized I've gone quite a bit over time here. But essentially, it's Intel's version. So what they do instead is you've got a piece of hardware that counts down. The more resources you put in, the more likely you are to get selected to be the leader. And basically, they instead of validating, the followers validate your signature instead. But that means that they have to trust you. That's why it's more often used in consortiums where someone like State Street would run it. And it's being developed as part of Intel's Hyperledger project, Sawtooth Lake. Now, yeah, I've already mentioned consortiums, but basically it's a trade-off between performance and decentralization. You validate the leader's signature, and there are fewer participants. And so in a financial situation, it would look like that. You'd have HSBC, Lloyds, JP Morgan, State Street, RBS. They'd be the validators. So you trust them to not corroborate together. I wouldn't, but you know, if you do, good luck. And then you've got members who sit on a different tier. They don't validate. They validate the signature generated by these people because Halifax trusts Lloyds Bank not to work with HSBC because that's never happened before. And I'm going to talk, I don't like going platform dependent, but I'm going to very quickly, and we are running near the end here, luckily for you guys, but Microsoft Cocoa, so it's a consortium blockchain framework due for release at the start of the year. The reason I'm mentioning it is because right now it's the only big implementation like this. It's about performance, confidentiality, security. All those problems I told you at the start there is a problem with. They say it'll solve it, they have got a white paper. That's about it. Like so many ICOs before them. And you get your choice. You get your choice of consensus methods. You get your choice of trusted execution environments. You can do homomorphic encryption, zero knowledge proofs. You can do all of that stuff, and that's the kind of advantage to it. Is it is agnostic, except for that because it's Microsoft, very Microsoft business model. You can implement it on any cloud you want as long as it's theirs. That's the only issue. I quite like Caesar because the idea behind Caesar is that followers can decide that they want to stab their leader in the back. Like in Shakespeare, yeah, I'm glad some of you got that. Well, I guess real life as well. I know it's not fiction. Now, the advantage to doing it this way is that Microsoft have claimed to get a transaction speed of 1,700 transactions per second, which is faster than Ripple, it's faster than PayPal, it's faster than Bitcoin, it's faster than Ethereum. But that's just what they've told us. And it's probably based on a single node implementation, but nobody knows until they release it. So we'll find out Q1 2018. Now, I'm going to leave you guys with my discussion of blockchain in 2018, some of which Bill's already mentioned, so we can skip that. Now, 2017 for me was the year of proof of concepts. This is the year of blockchain in full production, hopefully. Now, yeah, Kodak have joined the blockchain revolution. They've made their own coin, but that's not the worst part. So you might see that part there. So basically, Kodak will sell you a piece of ASIC hardware for just under $4,000 per year on a 2-year rental. And they say you will get guaranteed profits of 146%. Now, if that doesn't sound like wishful thinking to anybody here, like, I mean, you're welcome to invest, and I'm sorry if I'm insulting anybody here, but so their profit, you would never be allowed to say that in this country because their profits projection is based on Bitcoin, first of all, increasing back to it's $18,000, which may or may not happen. I think it probably will, but that's not the biggest issue. Their projection is based on minor difficulty not going up at all over the next 2 years. It goes up 15% per month. The only way to profit from Kodak's service is if Bitcoin goes up to $28,000. Now, if you think it will, then go ahead and invest. But you know when you're covering their risk, that's when you see it as a bad investment idea. Again, I'm not affiliated in any way. I don't own Bitcoins. I own some XRP, but like... so I'm not trying to get you guys not to mine Bitcoin so I can make more money. I'm not John McAfee. I've had some interesting exchanges with him, but I probably shouldn't say that. So, yeah, Hawk. Now, Hawk is a cryptographic smart contract framework, which, again, aims to solve the problems we've been talking about. And Microsoft Cocoa launched. So that's an exciting thing for the next year. And Florida and Tennessee accepting smart contracts as part of their legal framework. Also exciting. I actually think Arkansas have already done it last year in August, I think it was. And this is the interesting part at home, is that obviously Bank of England considering their own cryptocurrency and indicating that they may be interested in replacing CHAPS in the future. Now, basically, those from a financial background will know what CHAPS is. CHAPS is clearance and payment. It's expensive and it's managed by a lot of staff. And recently, a Ripple founder joined the board of the Bank of England. So it looks like that's going to go on well. That's going to be something exciting for 2018. It probably won't happen in 2018 because the Bank of England is incredibly risk averse, but we'll see. That's about it, guys. Oh, right, yeah.
So we get the best to last, and
Hey.
we're sorry. the two last ones. So we're very privileged. We want to make a difference to people's lives, and we want to improve health.
You got to put both on.
Care. So we've been working with Andy Todman here from
Age UK. Age UK.
and working in Cumbria just now on a project that's involved to create a microeconomy around blockchain.
Yeah, perfect.
Right, especially okay. Oh, that's the last thing we want. Can everyone hear me? At the back, yes? Yep. Right, there we go. We got the slide for. Is it this one? Yeah, just move that up and down. Yeah, okay.
Or press spacebar. So he's just going to give you a very brief introduction
okay.
to the possibilities. Really, this to us is the future and how you can create an ecosystem around blockchain.
Okay, everyone. Okay, well, hopefully we'll just. Oh, there we go.
Other button.
It should be. No. No, here we go. Are we? Okay. Hello, everyone. My name's Andy Todman. I'm the Chief Exec of Age UK West Cumbria. I just want to do a little bit of context because I'm up about 10 minutes, Bill. Yeah? You want? I'll try to keep to time. So I want to try and set you a context to all this. I'm not a techie guy. I just want to try and create a solution. And so the object of my presentation is to inform you all of a potential application for blockchain in the delivery of care and support in the community and get you some feedback. I've just got one brain. There's 200 odd brains in the room and whoever's viewing online. So I'd welcome some feedback. The way I'm going to do it, I've got 6 slides and I'm going to hack through them in 10 minutes. Now, what they benefit to you all is the fact that it may open your minds to a potential application, an area that you may not have considered. Just a brief summary about Age UK West Cumbria. Age UK, the setup is a federation. So we're one of about 150 independent charities that operate throughout the UK. We provide a range of services, including daycare and help at home. It's preventative stuff, very high social impact, and it enables independent living. We deliver that range of services through, we've got 7 shops, 6 resource centres, and as you see here, we've got 115 staff, 450 volunteers. And we serve a population of 167,000. So I'll just make sure I get the right, just so you know where West Cumbria is, Allerdale and Copeland, yeah, just the other way, the other part of the Solway from Dumfries and Galloway. It is a complex landscape because what we've got in Cumbria, you've got Cumbria's county council as the unitary authority, then you've got all the borough councils, and you've got the town councils on top of that. So in terms of service provision, all the rest of it, health and social care, it's very complex. And it's getting more complex because of health and social care integration. And this is the breakdown of the integrated care communities that are being created. So it is a very, very difficult operating landscape. You've got to understand all that. And there's an awful lot of bureaucracy and red tape that's being created. So what I try to do here is just to simplify everything down into a quick spin A analysis. Here's the situation. Like many people providing support and care in the community, we're losing money. Yeah, we're in an unsustainable position. We've lost about £150,000 over the past 3 years. That is the problem, and we cannot continue with that. The board has continued to fund our services because of the high social impact. And One of the other situation is the fact it's all paper-based, it's very bureaucratic, there's lots of contractual stuff that's been pushed down by the local authorities onto the providers such as ours, and that's unsustainable. And the system's very complex. In addition to that, there was a project delivered in Scotland, it's a EU-funded thing between 2007 and 2011, called Older People for Older People. And what that identified, particularly in the rural areas, there's a latent resource of younger older people who are prepared to help give some support to the older frail in any way, shape or form, but they would like that to be on a social enterprise basis. In other words, they do a certain amount of volunteering, but they have costs imparted in their contribution to society, and they want to be paid for it. The Older People for Older People project was very, very successful and award-winning, and it actually found that there needed to be a social enterprise system to allow payments and that within the communities, which in 2011 didn't exist. Now, what are the problems are? The problem for us is the fact that if I, as Chief Exec, recommend to the board we no longer provide services for our daycare and our help at home, there is nobody else to fill the void. So the challenge is the system, to try and change a system, it's very, very difficult. It's impossible. So there is an opportunity here to build a new system. And I'm going to relate, and I've got the quote at the back here, Buckminster Fuller. You've probably heard this before. You never change things by fighting against the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the old model obsolete. And I think with the blockchain and everything that's going on, there is a real opportunity to build a new system. The implication, folks, and be very open and candid with this, is if we in West Cumbria stop providing adult social care, or our support and our daycare and our help at home, that means some of those customers will go into crisis. If they go into crisis, they will present accident and emergency. The accident, the NHS and social care system's already under great pressure. So we would actually end up creating an additional demand on an existing stressed system. Then what happens, those people then become bed blockers. And one of the problems is they can't get back home because there's insufficient provision of care packages to allow them to return home. What then happens, those people start to lose their independence. So it becomes more difficult for them to return home. That's the key implication on here. The need. We need to take action. The time for discussions and all the rest of it is over. The crisis is here, and we need to address this as a matter of urgency. But also, we need to open up that latent resource of people, of younger, older people, and not necessarily them, they could be people, working people of any age, and to create a social enterprise economy that we can actually create an infrastructure that provides services. Now, the action's taken. This is what you're going to see is my idea, yeah? And I had to test the validity of all this and say, well, am I being crazy, yeah? Because I've got to look people in the eye and say, I've tried everything in my power not to cut services. That's the bottom line. So I'm standing before you here, all right, to get some feedback and say, well, is this viable? Can we actually change the system? So I went to see a biometrics outfit, and they said, well, actually, Andy, you've got something there. And I went to come up and see Bill and say, Bill, check me out here, is my thinking right? So the reason I'm standing here is obviously some people think that I'm onto something, maybe. Here we go. Here's the proposal one. Look at the left-hand side. First of all, what we've got to do is profile our customer base, the older people, in terms of their particular needs, because all the contracts are all tied up with whether people have got early onset dementia, whether they're a wheelchair user, whether they, whatever their medical needs are. And the tariff that we receive by the local authorities is fixed, is set. So if we're giving a service to a wheelchair user that with early onset dementia, then that will be a higher tariff than somebody who's able to walk unaided. In addition to that, what we've got to do in terms of the staff side of this is blockchain CVs. We've got to validate that the people we're employing, the people who are delivering the service, are appropriately qualified. For both, we've got to profile the biometrics because we've got to do more people work, not paperwork. So here's proposal 1 for day services. We run the transport. The transport contracts are separate from the daycare. That's the way it is. So what we do, the bus leaves the depot, so the minibus. So what happens is when the staff get in, they put their finger in the biometric reader or the hand on or whatever, and it validates that they are the right people for the job. There's their qualifications or whatever. They go to the first pickup point. When that person gets into the bus, they put the finger in the reader or the hand on, and it validates they are who they are, but also links through the smart contract to say, actually, we're in contract initiation now. This is the start of the contract. We then go around our route, picking up all the various people. Then when we get to the destination, when they get off the minibus, the transport, is the reverse process. They actually put the finger in the reader or the hand, and what happens then, that is the end of the contract. We have delivered. We have got them from home with the appropriate staff to the daycare centre. So job done. And we should receive payment for that. So that automates that system. The next is when the people actually go into the daycare centre. So now they go in through the door. The staff have already put their biometrics in, to validate that they're appropriately qualified and all the rest of it. Then as each person goes in, they just put the finger in the reader or the hand on the screen, and that starts the contract for the delivery of the service. When they're done, when they've finished, the reverse. They're leaving the first thing to do, the staff actually put the, that's the end of the session, and as each person goes out, they get the biometrics read, that's the end of the contract. So then for the daycare service, we should receive payment. So it's all automated, it's validated, right staff, right time delivering the service. And then the bus back home is exactly the same in reverse. So that's the daycare. Now, help at home. This is where our staff go into people, invariably people who live on their own, and provide support services. And we need to make sure that we've got the right staff delivering the right service in the right way at the right time. So again, back to the column on the right there, sorry, on the left. Everybody's profiled. The staff member pitches up at the person's home. They both put the finger in the reader or the hand on the screen within 1 minute of each other, so that we know that they're both at the same location, and that commences the contract. Our staff member then does the work, whatever's required, and then at the end of the session, then the reverse is true. They both put their hand in or their finger in the reader and completes that contract. Once that has been validated, then...
So the staff scan in.
Yep.
Both scan in.
Yep.
And then they're doing the work.
Doing the work, yep.
How do you validate they're doing the work?
Well, that is part and parcel of the...
With the client.
Yeah, the client, yeah.
Then also put a biometric scan to validate it.
That's exactly right. So in other words, have they been fed? Yeah. There's the details regarding that capacity of the client, but that's the part of the validation. In other words, you physically got the person with the right qualifications and they're actually there, we can time it all. And then as part of the validation process, that thing, yes, I have received my food, I have had the service that I'd wanted, that ends the contract and the payment's made, okay? So that's nuts and bolts, simple, how we want to do this. But there's something bigger in this. If we manage to create the infrastructure for this, this is where I'm saying about micro-franchising. If we can create a structure that we've got profiled the customer, we've got the biometrics, we've got all the medical needs, whatever it is, the requirements, and we match the staff skills, talents, abilities, training, and that can be validated. Then, and we're able to create the infrastructure in terms of the delivery of the service and the capture of the data. What potentially we've got here is a micro-franchising system that we could offer to people to say, actually, if you want to do 4 hours, you know, care to somebody up the road and get paid for it, they may be, a lot of people do a lot of voluntary work, but however, you know, there may be pensioners and they may, you know, want some extra income. There's always a limit to how people's goodwill. What the Older People for Older People project demonstrated was if we can create the infrastructure, the social enterprise infrastructure for payments and transfers and everything else, then people are willing to interact and give of their time. But that doesn't have any, that's not, you know, that's our Age UK's age focus. But it could be anybody of working age. And what we can actually do here by creating this infrastructure, create a new social enterprise landscape where we're ensuring the appropriate contract, the appropriate CV of the people delivering the service, and the payment. Okay. So what I want to just say in summary, this is a turning point, but I'll be very candid with you guys. The system, as you well know, the NHS, the adult social care system and everything else, it's got big problems. But where you've got big problems, looking positively, there is a big market. And action is needed now to promote this technology across the local authority and NHS and social care landscapes. What we're proposing with Bill is to pilot this in West Cumbria in the forthcoming months. And we were happy to share our findings on that because we believe it's scalable and can actually create new solutions. Thank you very much indeed. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay.
Right, well, we've shown you a vision of the future, and then go and get some beers. Okay, thank you very much, and thank you for NBN. We'll get some beers. Thank you. You can talk to Andy and Liam.
Is that all right, Liam?
No, it was good, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm looking forward to getting started on that.
Yeah, exactly right. We'll soon.
Excuse me. I appreciate what you're doing. We're a spin out of the University of Edinburgh, and we're actually working on blockchain stored CVs.
All right.
And verification of work and project history. So perhaps we should have a chat sometime. We're in the process of applying for an Innovate UK grant.
Oh, yeah. All right. Yeah.